This tutorial is all about using effects in After Effects on the text that we're going to use, and because this is week 2 and you're just starting to learn After Effects, I'm just going to do a refresher over the basic core things you need to do before we start. So if you remember, we always have to make our file, and I've named that appropriately, and you can name it as experiment 1 or experiment text, whatever you want. But I've made an image folder, a video folder as we did last week, but I've also added a sound folder, and I'm actually going to add some sound. So if I go to Chrome, and a good place to search for some sound effects is a website called SoundJ, and they're copyright free and free to use. So I'm going to go machine and mechanical because I want to use an explosion at some point. So explosion sound effects, and this one is right, I think. Yeah, and I'm going to download the MP3 file because although MP3s are not great quality because they're compressed so much, but for this test and experiment I would advise that's what you use because the file size is quite low and you don't need to worry about quality right now. So I'm going to download that, and then I'll go back into After Effects and get my folder again. Now I'll go back to my file and open my sound, and I'm going to grab the explosion file and put it into my sound folder. So I'm now ready. Okay, so we're going to start a new project. And if you remember, we always start with a new composition, so I'll call this text effects. And if you remember from week 1, the preset we're going to work on is HDTV 1080 29.97 frames per second, and so that ratio will come up at 1920 by 1080. And that's what is used in the industry. The default duration is normally 30 seconds. If you want to change it to 10 or 15 seconds, just by selecting that, and then you can change the time. Okay, so then once you've selected your preset of HDTV 1080 and you've selected the time, you're ready to go. Okay, so I've got my composition, I've named it. Now if I double click on here, it opens up a window for me to search for my files. So I'm looking for it is, and I'm going to open my video, and I'll drag that into there, and that opens it up. I could also, if I want to just drag the sound in here, I can do that as well. So there's a couple of ways you can do. I could double click on this panel or drag it in, whatever you want to. So I won't put that into the composition yet because I want to focus on text effects. Now you'll be quite surprised the fun you can have with this because there's quite a lot of effects that are pre-made in After Effects. So what I want you to do is search down the right hand panel and open up your effects and presets panel, and then open up animation presets and then text. And I just want you to work within this preset area here, the text effects. Okay, so first of all we have to put some text on here, so I'm just going to put Woodland. Actually this is the font I want. If it's not, select it and then open up character, and you can select here and go through all the fonts that you want and choose what you want. Hopefully a lot of you have already downloaded some interesting fonts from DaFont, and you should have some interesting ones that you can use. What I want you to do, I want you to find a video from Pexels or Pixabay, which is copyright free, and I want you to find a video on a topic, and then I want you to actually type a word that fits that topic and then I want you to choose a theme. I've got this small video and it's a woodland, so I'm actually typing out woodland, and I'm going to make it a little bit spooky. So that's my first thing I'm going to do, is find a preset that I think is quite spooky and have a go and play with it. So that's what I want you to do once you start working on your own work today. This is part of task 2 and you're working on experiments, so you should save what we did last week, export it like I told you how to, with adding it to the render queue, and then now you're going to do more experiments with text, and then you save that, and then we're going to put it into a journal and evaluate the processes. So pick a video, put text in that's appropriate to that video, choose an appropriate font, and then choose a theme. Okay, and then we're going to then go to the effects and presets. Now, if you wanted to change the size of this font, remember you've got this font size here in the panel on the right hand side, so you can make it smaller and bigger by just scrolling left and right. And you can change the colour here and the spacing, and if you want regular bold, or I'm quite happy with how mine is, so I'm going to go with that. So I'm going to go to the move tool and position my font where I want it to start, and then we go back to where I told you to open the effects and presets, open animation presets and text, and I'm going to choose blurs, and I'm going to have a look at Jiggy. So you click and drag the effect onto the text, yeah, and then that actually does all the work for you. So if I press play, it's pretty cool without you doing a lot of work, isn't it? And that looks like a, you know, like an old flickering TV, and could be quite spooky. Yeah. So if I didn't want the text to go on for so long, if I click on the end of it, I can click and drag, and I can make it end wherever I want to in the timeline. So then you might, and then it'll go for just over 5 seconds and disappear. Don't forget you could also add keyframes. Remember from last week what we learned? You open up the little drop down arrow here, transform, and you put in keyframes for position, and we did opacity. So I might put a keyframe here and then move it here and then drag it down so it's starting to move around. So where you can see the little dots of green, that means it's trying to render. So when I play it back, it's going to be a bit jittery. It won't be very smooth until you get that green render line. You're not seeing a true preview. So now if I go back here, the first bit is in true time. So you can see now I put a keyframe in, so it's moving as well as doing the effect, and then it disappears. So use the knowledge that you learnt last week as well. If you want to play with the keyframes as well, please do. But have fun with these presets to start with. Okay, so I'm going to go Command Z and get back to our original text. So put everything back in the timeline. So I'm going to try another one, and I'm going to go to lights and optical, and I'm going to use fluorescent light. First of all, I'm going to move that down. Click and drag it over it until I get the box, and this time you can see like a flickering fluorescent light. So it fits my theme. So now I'm going to do a different theme. I'm going to do explosion, just to show you how to use an exploding font and then use the sound that we brought in before. Let's go back, Command Z, back to where we were. And I'm going to go to miscellaneous. and you can see there's explosion here. There's a couple, so you can try a couple. I'm just going to go for the first one. You can see it just explodes the text. Okay, now I need to bring my sound in, so I'll bring that into my composition, which puts it into the layer. And you can see the explosion goes on for a long time. I don't want that. So I want that to stop before then. So let's try it again. So I need it to stop about here. So when the last letter's faded out completely. So what I can do, if I open up the MP3, sorry, that's MP4, and audio, and I'll actually put the waveform on it because I can actually see it. And I want to put a keyframe in the levels. So I want it just after 2 seconds. So maybe about here I'll put a keyframe in. So keyframe. And about here I'm going to put another keyframe. Well, I'm just going to change this, it'll add a keyframe for me. And then that fades it down. So I'm taking it to minus. Let's see how that sounds. I think that actually fades out too quick. So if I stretch that keyframe out a little bit, can you see it's lifting the waveform up? So that should fade it a little bit more gently. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so we're now using keyframes to make the sound fade as well. So we've now got your exploding font and a fading sound. So they're the things I want you to work on today. Incorporating a sound, please put your headphones on though. Please let's not have big explosions going off everywhere in the room. And I want you to choose an image or a video from Pexels or Pixabay, and I want you to open up animation presets, text, and any of them you can use, and really just have some fun experimenting, because that's what task 2 is all about for this assignment. And you can see this is going to really be quite effective quite quickly. You just got to learn how to control it using your keyframes, fading in and out, and maybe moving the timeline here. So this one's way too long, so we're going to take that, and if you hold shift it will click in line with this. Let's get everything in line. Click shift, in line. There you go. That's tidied up your timeline as well. So enjoy using the effects with text, and then I want you to export your movie. If you go to composition, add to render queue, and then select the output to, just to make sure it's going to the right file, because this isn't actually going to the right file at the minute, and that could happen to you as well. So that's my file, that's where I want it to go, save. So then it will actually be going to the right place, and then you click render. When it's ready, you should hear a little ping. Yeah, like that. And then if I go to my file, videos, there you go. That's my movie done. So just have fun.